Hello, guys. Good evening and a happy Friday and a good 4th of July for everyone out there. This is Chuck from used to be Sporkman Studios. Now I'm just kind of on my own, doing my own thing. And I am joined by my good friend and brother in Christ, Bob Jones.
What up, everybody? I hope you got your coffee ready, because we're about to be talking some Superman.
Yep. So, June 15th was the 10th anniversary of The Man of Steel. Kind of why I got in this mood to talk about it, because I rewatched The Man of Steel today. And
I may or may not claim my parents' collector's edition in the tin and everything to make sure that it's like, no, it is sealed. And I'm like,
nice.
No, exactly. Like, I'm like, this is going with the collection, not because I'm worried that y'all will open it and whatnot, but because, yeah, we need it in our collection. It is the way. What up, Neo?
So, first thing I will say, before we dive into like how we think about the movie, we'll talk about the movie. We really want to break down because, for me, I know Bob, you and I have talked about, and just like to give a slight overview. Bob and I both feel that Man of Steel does the Superman mythos justice.
Oh yeah, it does. It really feels that fight between Zod and Superman felt like a fight between Zod and Superman.
Yeah, I like you. Don't get me wrong. I like Superman too, but I just felt that fight, those fight scenes were not as good. But they were a product for their time, so I'm not going to knock them.
Yeah, and why did you let me know that the stream is going over my phone? I just now noticed that.
Well, so I was actually in the middle of creating a kind of like a retrospective video because for me as a film creator and also as a huge Superman fan, Superman is my top favorite character in the DC universe. He's my second favorite character overall behind Neymar. The reason being is for me, they are the two first off, they're the first two comic book heroes. Superman debuted about 6 months before Neymar did. So,
and don't forget, Batman debuted around the same time too.
Yeah, well, Batman debuted literally I believe the next year. So
1939.
Yeah, so 38 June of 38 was for Superman, and then October of 38 was Neymar. So but the thing is though, the thing is for me, why I like both those characters, this will lead into why overall, for me, Superman, I think the mythos of Superman is more robust than Neymar, and I mean, there's a reason why he is the core of the Trinity. In all honesty,
they've been dubbed like the Holy Trinity of comics.
Right, exactly. And for all intents and purposes, and there's just so many things about Superman over the years, like where he started originally, and we talked about that in a previous video with our 80th anniversary, 80th anniversary video, where we talked about those different mythos and where Superman started and where he is now as a character and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend you go check that video out. We talk about that in the 80th anniversary. I think for me, the biggest reasons why, Superman is so appealing, and I know a lot of people don't particularly care for Superman. They call him the big boy scout and stuff like that. I just think let me finish my thought and then I'll let you go, Bob. So I just think they don't give Superman enough credit. They just see this overall ideal image of him, but there are actually times where Clark is not the perfect superhero. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I was just being going to make a smart comment. That like that's all I was doing was making a smart comment.
Oh, okay. So you know, here we are now at the 10th anniversary of the Man of Steel. So, as a character, Bob and I, we've talked. I know we've talked about this on audio videos, like where we rank our Superman and our Batmans and stuff like that. And I love Christopher Reeves. Don't get me wrong. I think he really embodied Superman for those times. But as a kid growing up, I loved the original Superman movies. They were great movies. They were great. I felt Christopher Reeves embodied the Superman of that time. Bob and I just talked last week that we felt, and this is where I think Henry, not only did he look the part, because he does kind of embody some of the stuff that Christopher Reeves did and stuff like that, but I think we've talked about how he definitely models a lot of the more modern Superman that we know of from, say the New 52, Rebirth, and some stuff from the 80s and 90s.
Perfectly like the 80s. Like if you read the 80s soft reboot that they did, or actually I guess it was a full reboot, but whatever.
Well, yeah, John Byrne run.
Yeah. He literally looks like that Superman. You put him in, like, if you were to put him in the proper suit and everything with the glasses, dude, he literally looks like Superman.
Yeah.
Like Clark and Superman at the same time. You're just looking at him like, well, they got that casting right.
And that's where I definitely feel like, so let's start in terms of the casting. Like, I had never heard of Henry Cavill, at all when he was first announced, but coming off of, we had with Michael Keaton and then of course Christian Bale. And I realized even then, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give him a chance. I've never heard of this guy, but I know generally in most cases, Superman are always unknown actors before they become in the role, and then they get bigger afterwards. I mean, look how big Christopher Reeves jumped after Superman in terms of his acting abilities and who he became as an actor. And unfortunately, his accident cut everything. But he still, when he did that episode, those couple episodes of Smallville, like there was still that Superman in there, in him, So I'm not taking.
He did that because he knew that everyone wanted to see him in it as nothing else as a nod.
Yeah.
And honestly, dude, I stand by. Had he lived, like, he would be walking by now. And
I think so. I think
they could have done a Kingdom Come movie. He would have gotten himself back in shape, because from everything that they were saying, even at the time, he was slowly but surely making a recovery.
Yeah. And I just think, unfortunately, technology had not caught up to him, there in the early 2000s. We were still here we are 20 years. I think he died. When did he die? What, 2008?
2004. 2004.
Okay. So here we are almost 20 years later, and how much they've done full armor placements with technology, and they've gotten people who no longer could walk to walk again. They've done miracles with regrowing nerves and stuff like that. So 100%, I think if Christopher Reeves would have been able to hold on, and he was able to live now. I mean, look at what we've done with Magic Johnson, Michael J. Fox, and these are guys that have literally had written death sentences, and they're still living now after all this time because of the advancements. And Christopher Reeves, it was partly why we've gotten so far, because he was the one doing a lot of the stem cell therapy, like pushing that.
It's actually like pretty sad, because when you think about what happened to him and how he was finally starting to get better near the end, and then all of a sudden it was actually one of the experimental drugs that he was taking that ended up causing him problems.
Well, then he got I believe he got a staph infection.
It was I was actually just reading up on it just to make sure. but it was. Let me go. Want to bring up the exactly what it was. It was something Fisher. It was a pressure ulcer that caused
Yeah.
sepsis.
What? Yeah, and see, and that's the thing is, so like that's the problem is it's like he didn't die from the fact that he got injured, with a severed spine. It was secondary conditions is what killed him. So that is the sad thing is losing him so early and I mean he was in his I believe he was in his late 50s.
Oh yeah.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, so like he definitely, if he would have been able to get walking again, with our technology, if he'd been able to live longer, yeah, I think he could have done, they could have figured some way of getting him back. I just believe they could have.
Yeah,
but
it would have been Kingdom Coming and would have been amazing.
But so like when they announced Henry Cavill playing this role, and I'm like, I don't know this guy, but he definitely looks the part, And then when I saw that first image of him in front of the steel, when he started to the bank by Fiora, and they showed that first still of him there in the costume and everything, my jaw just dropped, and I'm like,
okay,
holy!
The only reason, want to know what I stand by? That movie would have made more money. See, this is why I swear Warner Brother hates money. I swear they do, and they have always hated money.
Oh,
because
yeah.
One of the things that don't like, first off, the biggest thing, and I stand by this to this day, that hurt Man of Steel is there was a bunch of people like me who refused to see Man of Steel in theaters because of Christopher Nolan's involvement and how he ended the Batman trilogy. If Christopher, and I stand by this to this day, if Christopher Nolan could have been able to check his freaking ego and actually say, I should say, and actually be open to the idea and understand the point that fans were making, like us, that the whole point of Batman is the fact that he's the only mere mortal that could step to these quote-unquote gods and win. Not in a world, which is an exact quote of Christopher Nolan's, mind you, in a world where Superman exists, Batman wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's where I do, and we're going to talk about like some of the issues we have. Bob and I both agree it's not a perfect film at all.
No. And Neil mentioned how Henry Cavill had come a long way from Count of Monte Cristo. That is still a great movie.
So what? I don't remember watching that movie.
Oh, was that Jesus as the Count? Like the dude that played Jesus as the Count. Like I can't remember the dude's name, but he's the one that goes.
Cavill or Cavill. Not Henry Cavill, but Jim Caviezel.
Yes, Caviezel. I can remember his name, but yeah, no, he and like everyone was well cast in that movie too. It's got like I think Guy Pearce is the dude's name.
Yeah, Guy Pearce was okay. Yeah, so it's been a while since I watched that movie. So yeah, because Guy Pearce was the villain.
And like you had the one dude that's currently playing Gomez in the frickin' Wednesday TV show. I think he was such a horrible cast for it. No offense to him. But after you have Raul Julia and the masterpiece that he gave us as Gomez Adams, you got like the only guy that could have played him is the guy that they got to play Moon Knight. He was the only guy in my eyes that would be able to properly play.
Yeah, Gooseman. Dude, that was 2002 for the Count. Holy crap. I got to go back and watch that because it's been a long... Yeah, Henry Cavill as Albert Montego.
Yes.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. But so like that tells you like I didn't even remember him in that movie.
Neither did I. I saw it again recently and went, "Hey, that's Superman."
So when seeing him, like and let's see here. I Capture Castle. Of course, I don't remember that one. He was in, I guess, a lot of TV series over in Britain, which is why we really didn't know him. But now, of course, I did see Stardust, and I thought that was pretty good. Immortals, I don't remember that. Let me see if I don't remember Immortals at all.
Good movie, actually. Like, weird. Like, it's not like the greatest movie ever, but him, Mickey Rourke, basically going against each other. A few other, like, I can't remember.
Yeah, well, Stephen Dorff was in it.
Yep.
Luke Evans, Isabella Lucas. So, it's about Theseus.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna.
Like, it's a good movie. It's a bit weird, but it's good. I don't like Mickey Rourke's character, but that's a testament to Mickey Rourke and how good of an actor he can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Okay. Yeah, so when you look at him, like I said, like I now I do remember him in Cold Light of Day. That after watching that, seeing that again, it was him and Bruce Willis. But I actually thought that came out after Man of Steel. But it actually came out before Man of Steel.
Never seen it. But I'm not a movie guy. Like, if I get a movie, it's generally comic book related. If I get a TV show, it's generally either a cartoon or comic book related. Yeah,
so he was in. Now I saw Stardust, but I don't remember him in Stardust. Like I said, Immortals, Blood Creek he was in. So that was Dominic Purcell. So that was pretty much probably a straight-to-video horror movie that didn't really do really well. Yeah, it received a 4 out of 10. No wonder why. So, let's stepping back. Like, so when I first saw that shot of him, like, I knew like he was going to be very good. Now, in terms of Zack Snyder directing it, like, and then of course when they filled out the rest of the cast, with Amy Adams, I liked her in.
I still say she's not
Enchanted.
For Lois Lane. I still say, like, I'm sorry, the only woman I say fit out of all the various Lois Lanes, and I will die on this hill, Terry Hatcher. She was gorgeous enough to be Lois Lane.
What's interesting? Henry Cavill was in Hellraiser, in a Hellraiser movie.
Oh wow!
It was actually the last role that Doug Bradley played as Spinhead. So interesting. I just saw that. I was like, he was in. Wow. Okay. So anyhow, like, and then of course, when they announced Diane Lane as Martha, I was like, perfect casting job right there.
She did do a good job. And I still say, like, the whole can we, for fuck's sake, have Jonathan Kent alive like in the comics?
Yes. Well, like, he's alive, and like I after watching that, I watched both I watched Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman. He's alive in the whole thing. It's like, come on, can we get him as a normal father figure?
Like, the whole point of Jonathan Kent is, even though Superman is this pretty much just nigh invincible freaking alien that can literally destroy the planet several times over, and there ain't shit anyone on the planet could do about it if he really wanted to.
Right.
All right. Like, even Batman with all his contingency plans, as much as I say Batman would win, no. If Superman wanted to murk Batman, Superman could murk Batman. Batman wouldn't even see it coming. All right.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, if he we saw it in, if you watch the stuff that Superman has done with the Authority, and where he's fought against what's his name, what happened to the Superman of Tomorrow, where the one guy, the British team kind of goes like AWOL, and they start causing all these problems, and then when they beat the crap out of Superman on the moon, and he like that switch, and he beats up the guys, and I'm like, dude, if he literally, that just shows you what line he like, how far to the line he will go. You know what I mean? And it's like if he wanted to, he could cross the line.
Oh yeah,
you know.
he could easily.
Well, and James Gunn's Brightburn actually does kind of address that issue. What if Superman did not have like the
Don't get me started on James Gunn.
No, I'm not. I'm just using.
Can we tell you the one thing though? We've seen how many articles from the reputable sources, not like the Geeks and Gamers. I'm not saying anything bad about them, but I do have to admit those guys do a lot of sensationalism in every little. Oh, they're finally coming for Kathleen Kennedy, or they're finally coming for. That never comes out to happen. I'm sorry. I got to call them out on that. But I'm talking the ones that like normally run cover for people like James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing articles where WB execs are not happy with him because of his failures. They expected him to come in, like they were able to put him on that position. They expected name recognition and what he's done with Guardians of the Galaxy alone to be enough to get all these movies going. And people are trying to make up excuses. Well, he's not even had any effect on it yet. 1 second, he's been in charge since The Suicide Squad. That was how many movies ago now?
Well, that was he's only been at it about 8 months or so. But here's the thing: like if I was Gunn, I would have never have left. All this stuff going on with Ezra Miller and stuff like that. I would have pulled it. I would never have left that movie go.
That's the whole point that I'm making. James Gunn, because of his lack of leadership in the right direction, like he can't. Like there's even talk that the Batgirl movie would have probably been a better move than the Flash.
and trust me, I've heard people who've seen some stuff and it was bad. But Michael Keaton was also in that too.
Yeah, that's the point.
So either which way, we still would have gotten Michael Keaton.
Exactly, and like the big point that I've been seeing made is that basically James Gunn is trying to let me. Unfortunately, I have Mass Effect 2 up.
Oh.
So, well, I'm trying to get through that again because it's,
Well, let's stay on topic.
But, I'm Googling. Let's see, James.
Well, let's the thing is, like, what I would have done is, this is just me, after all and I guarantee you why, and I've seen some people say the Flash wasn't bad. Like a lot of people said, like a lot of people said the Michael Keaton thing worked really good. The girl who played Supergirl was really good, but a lot of people said that it all came down to Ezra Miller.
Right,
like he is just not likable. You know what I would have?
The Direct is one of the reputable ones, right?
The what?
The Direct is one of the ones that gets access and toes the line, right?
I think so.
Like, they're one of the corporate, basically, chills.
Well, it depends. Yeah, I think the one they got to do the Flash, isn't it something Marigold or something?
Well, this article, all right, James Gunn reportedly upsets Warner Brothers execs with recent comments. James Gunn.
Andy Muschietti, yeah. So that's definitely he's a corpo guy. I don't even know who he is. Like what he's. Oh, he directed it too.
No, I'm talking the Direct is not the director. The Direct is a publication.
Oh, okay. I'm not okay. Like I come back to like I think to me like once again I think and it did kind of hurt the same thing with Man of Steel. I think because of what came off of how the Dark Knight ended, the series. I think a lot of DC fans were just very upset, and I think in some ways, because the thing is, Zack Snyder came off of really big hits. He came off of 300. He came off of Dawn of the Dead remake. So like he was firing. What should have happened, in my opinion, is they should have recasted Ezra Miller, reshot everything. I don't care if it ballooned the cost up. That's what I would have done. I would have done the reshoots.
Right? Anything would have been smarter than just trying to ride out the shitstorm, because so many people said they weren't going to see the movie on just Ezra Miller alone. Then you have everything that happened at WB, with the firing of Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
With, like, the fact that WB refuses to listen to fans. They keep shitting on legacy characters.
And I think you're also seeing superhero fatigue at this point.
Keep saying that, and I'm like, no, we would still be going to see these movies hand over fist. But the problem is, we're not getting superhero movies. That's the problem. We aren't getting superhero movies, so people aren't going to go see this fake. It's like being excited for a console. Like, you just got yourself a PS5, you ordered it, it's coming through the mail, you just paid full PS5 price, and then you finally get it in the mail, open it up.
It's a PS1.
It's not even that. It's a Chinese cheap knockoff with a bunch of ROMs, no disc, and you can't defend it.
Yeah. Well, like some of the people said, like one of the creators I follow, Tom Hutchinson, he's done Critter and some stuff for Aspen and stuff like that, and like he said the movie wasn't bad. He said, because he was one of the ones that said that Michael Keaton was really good, but he said the CGI in there were worse than PS2 graphics.
That doesn't.
I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, okay, you spend $300 and some million on. I'm not sure if it was $300 and some million, but let's say it's $250. Okay, you spent $250 million on a movie, and your CG looks worse than console graphics. Yeah. PS2 from 25 years ago. Yeah, that is sad and horrible. That should not be that way. I'm sorry. Multi-million-dollar movies. Like somebody posted something the other day, because Superman and Lois just had their season 3 finale, and they actually said that why is it that the CG on a show that costs like maybe $30 million looks better than the CG from a $250 million film? Because they're comparing Doomsdays.
Yeah, no.
And they actually said the Doomsday on the Superman and Lois was really good.
Yeah, no. And the big thing about Superman and Lois is you can tell the guy who plays Superman tries his best to not, like, I have only seen like a good chunk of season 1. I haven't seen season 2 or 3. But everything I've seen about him, the guy that they have playing Superman, is you could tell he doesn't want to piss off the fans. He wants the fans to embrace him. And the fans have. Because he's always, like, when you see him on screen, it's like the moment that sold me on his Superman, and I will say this every time, when they showed him in the classic 1930s costume saving the kid, and the kid says, cool costume, and his whole face lights up like Clark's face freaking would.
Yep.
Thanks, my mom made it for me. And flew off.
Yep. And that's the thing for me too, because Tyler, every time I see Tyler playing, either Clark or it's the same thing for Henry. Every time I saw him, like when they would talk about Superman playing the role, they were excited to talk about the character, because they, now I know Henry more than Tyler, but I know that like Cavill loves like for him, like Superman was like a role of the lifetime. Like he really wanted to, because he's a huge comic fan. I don't know if Tyler is as much, but you could tell he definitely likes the character, playing the character, being the fact that he gets to play the kind of geeky, nerdy, dumpy dad, and then he gets to flip around and he's this kick-ass superhero.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know that the girl who plays Lois Lane, she likes playing Lois Lane too. So like they both have good chemistry on the film. So coming back to, like, we want to get back to focusing on, you know, the Man of Steel, you know, and that's the thing is, like, I think for me, like, the only thing, one of my biggest gripes I have with the Superman Man of Steel movie is the way, they wasted, unfortunately, Kevin Costner as Jonathan.
Yep, they did. No, I'm not even.
Because, and now I will argue, like I will argue, if they would have gotten Superman 2, we probably would have gotten a lot more scenes with Jonathan.
Oh yeah. Well, you also have that's the other issue. Like, they got this dude that they're trying to astroturf as the new Superman. And all I'm seeing online is everyone go, we already have a Superman and that guy ain't it. Like, you have the woke tards that are the James Gunn stands, that everything Gunn does, they're going to support. But WB is quickly learning that's a small, very small fraction. And the guys that'll come out and plop money down to see a Superman film aren't the same people.
See, and I don't. I think, and this is where I think WB. I have nothing against the new guy. I want to see what he does.
Nope.
But my issue is, and here's where I'm going to come back to. My issue is, why do we need a young Superman again? We already had a young Superman. We've had young Supermans. There is so much other stuff for Superman that needs to be done. Why does Lex need to be the villain again? He's always the villain. You know,
it's not just that. It's not just that, dude. It's why do we need a new Superman? Why do they need to recast Lex when they could have Lex take a break, step back, and be a puppet master like Lex freaking is? Like, it just makes me so mad because it seems like WB has a bad habit of going, okay, we don't like what you're doing to the directors that they hired to make these movies, and then step in and go, we wanted you to do this, and this, and then complain that their movies fail. Well, WB, maybe if you just listen to fans when we tell you exactly what we want.
Like, one of the big things with our modern graphics, the way we have everything, do you know how well they could do Metallo?
Exactly.
You know,
it'd be freaking epic if they did them right.
Because, like, the thing is, and that's a point in case where we're talking about Lex stepping back and being a puppet master. Because how does Metallo come about? Lex gives him the kryptonite.
Yep.
And he outfits him. He gives him and basically puts him into a cyborg body, which causes tension between Metallo and Lex because he can't feel or taste anything anymore. So you still have Lex as the mastermind. So we haven't even brought Brainiac into the whole thing. Solomon Grundy.
Right. And if they do it right, like, they could have a slow build.
Here's the whole thing.
Justice League.
Here's the whole thing. Gorilla Grodd. So they don't want to do a Flash movie. Okay, well, you swap Flash out for the Superman. He's fighting Gorilla Grodd.
I mean,
because Superman won. Parasite. Yeah. So, like,
I mean, think about that. Like, and it could lead into a Justice League movie, like, with Parasite actually being a bit of a threat because he got a hold of some Leaguers and had, used their powers against Superman. Like, that's the plot of the movie, and it could have ramifications that they have to deal with in the Justice League movie. Like,
it's just not that. There is, so you could have, oh hell, dude, you could do, well, there's a time where Emil Hamilton turns against Superman for a while, and he's creating stuff in Star Labs to take out Superman.
like, yeah, dude, like there is. Granted, they killed him in Man of Steel, but still. Uh, Point well,
Well, he didn't kill him. Technically, yeah, he's in the Venom zone. And that's the other problem I have. You have
He
these.
was well cast too.
Yes, dude. Everybody. That's what I'm saying. Like you had him as Emil Hamilton. You had what's his name as the guy from SVU. He was Colonel Harding. You had the black gentleman who was as General Hawkins, which I believe he did a really good job. You had, you even had the humor with the side villains and stuff like that. The other thing you could do is you could always have it where, let's say, you could always do it where let's talk about a sequel. Okay, Cyborg Superman. You could do Cyborg Superman. You could do the Eradicator. You could do...
No. That's what we should have gotten in a proper Death and Return of Superman. But this is the whole point that I'm making, though. Because WB kept rushing kept rushing Zack Snyder, that was not Zack Snyder's original plan. You can feel in the way the movies are. That
was all Nolan. That was because Nolan and David Goyer are the ones that wrote the script for Man of Steel. Zack Snyder just directed it.
And then Zack Snyder tried fixing it in, Batman v Superman, like, to an extent. He didn't write that one either. I think that one was still actually Nolan writing.
No, it was Zack Snyder. It was Deborah Snyder and hold on, give me a second here. Two characters, writer, written by Chris Torreno and David Goyer. And here's the thing: is Goyer's actually not the best writer.
Yeah, and dude. My big thing when it comes to those movies is there's a lot of things that they could have done, and we would have signed up. Like, take my freaking money. Literally, shut up and take my money.
So here's part of the reason why the script was so bad. Chris Terrio wrote the script for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the follow-up based on an earlier draft by Goyer, and is credited for co-writing the 2017 Justice League along with Josh Snyder for the theatrical cut, and with Zack Snyder and Will Beal. Yeah, hold on. He also co-wrote this script for Star Wars: Rise of the Skywalkers with J.J. Abrams.
Can I just beat my head against the wall now?
So now, but I will come back to Goyer is a hit or a miss because like the first Blade movie was fantastic. The second one was good. The third one, I know a lot of people like Ryan Reynolds. I just thought it was a dumpster fire. But there's other movies like Goyer has done that have been okay. But I think part of the problem is, I think with all the issues that there was with WB's upper management, and then of course, Nolan, having his tissy fit and getting out, him and his wife leaving, so that Deborah, of course, had to pick up the slack producing and stuff like that. I just think they rushed too quickly on BVS. I really would have had a second film dealing with the Man of Steel 2, where you might hear like things of stuff going on in Gotham and stuff like that, but he's fighting somebody else.
Yeah, like there's so many things that they could have done that would have been so much more effective. But unfortunately, instead of doing that, they went, you know what, we hate money.
Neo said one of the best lines right here, which would have tied directly in to the whole thing with
Yep. And that's one thing that bothered me. Why did they make Doomsday? Why didn't they make a Bizarro? That would have made way more sense.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I would have gone that route and like would have set up the groundwork for making Connor Kent Superboy.
Yeah, because because the whole thing is, that was the whole point of Connor getting like them extracting Superman's DNA, because Superman's DNA helps stabilize. Technically, it's the other way around, because they were trying to use Superman's DNA to clone him, but Lexus was what stabilized Superboy. Yep. So, yeah. So, now, of course, they never mentioned who the ovum came from the female, which is really interesting, because you could splice male DNA from two males and you would still need a female ovum for it to inseminate, so, which would be an interesting story to find out who provided the ovum for.
Well, actually, the way, if I remember right, it's been years since I looked at the cloning. You actually, the whole point of cloning, you're actually turning a regular cell into an ovary, or into an egg. Sorry, yeah.
But you can't do that. That's impossible. You cannot do that. You still have to. You can have a blank ovum.
This is actual science.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You would have to have a blank egg or something like that would be still like harvested from a young.
I don't know how exactly to explain it, but they literally take a cell and like inject it with like a sperm. I mean, it's so weird.
But anyhow, yeah. Neither here nor there. So so let's we're getting kind of off topic again here. So anyhow,
no, we're talking about Superman, because you know me. If we're going to talk about something that can even remotely be sciencey, I'm the guy that goes, okay, yeah, we actually could do that.
But it's supposed to be a retrospective of the Man of Steel, so we're getting into BVS territory, So, coming back to, there was, so many things they did right in the film. I just really felt like the casting was good all the way around. Now, I did have some issues with how the film was cut in some ways. I wasn't a big fan of the flashbacks that much. I thought they were good. But at the same point, I felt like some of the flashback scenes that I really loved, of course, is when, you saw the first time he rescued, because he was getting picked on by Pete and stuff like that. And even though Pete was bullying him, he still saved him. And so, I felt that was, and of course, saving Lana and all that stuff, you realize who Clark's going to be. Now, in him not understanding who he is at that time, and I love the crisis of faith he's having, Clark is having at that time, and he's like, well, why did God make me this way? And come to realize that, Jonathan didn't correct him at any point to say, no, God didn't make you this way. You were just given to us from another area through God delivering whatever chance, fate, whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and can we please talk about how one of the best things that they did in that movie is they actually went into why Kryptonians are that way.
Yeah.
They just didn't go, oh, they're this way because raisins. No, they went into it. They're like, well, their planet has a stronger gravity. Their sun has, they've had a weaker sun, and this, that, and the other. They went in, they put thought into it.
Yeah, well, and that's something that for all intents and purposes, that was a lot from Nolan, because Nolan's very sciencey. So he really from an interview I watched with him, and he talked about how he wanted the stuff happening on Krypton to be more very realistic in terms of science and stuff like that. So them harvesting the core of Krypton. So that would be realistic. You know what I mean? If they were dealing with a society that's thousands and thousands of years ahead of Earth, and so everything, I love that everything was sciencey on there and stuff like that. Now, the only thing I didn't like was the whole evolutionary type, eugenics thing. I wasn't a big fan of that, but it makes sense because that's the way Krypton would be, and that's been in every iteration where they went into, every iteration where Clark was this miraculous birth because of the fact of they had strict guidelines on genetics and stuff like that. So that was always in every iteration of Krypton with Clark being born, but just different ways,
Well, I always liked the idea that when it comes to the way that the Kryptonians work, like, even if you don't go the eugenics route, everything, it doesn't matter because they even state that nothing is out of their control. The weather does not do what they do not want it to do. Not like they've become so technologically advanced that it is impossible for their planet to be destroyed. And so it's not so much like eugenics in like some instances, just to better clarify that I don't want.
Yeah, it's not saying
that's an incorrect statement. They didn't leave anything to chance. You went through gene therapy, everything to create the perfect Kryptonian because everything had to be perfect on Krypton.
Right, and everybody had their role. Even Zod said he's like, I was purposely created to protect Krypton, and you do see some of like the megalomaniac stuff, like when he says in the line, he says, I want to sever the bloodlines, the degenerate bloodlines,
the weak bloodlines that do not contribute or whatever.
Right. So like the thing is, like there was a lot of stuff like you really definitely could see them pulling how Zod is just that's the thing is Zod just exists for Krypton. That's his whole life mission. It's nothing but Krypton.
Yeah. I still see Michael Shannon was well cast, though.
Oh yeah, bye. Like every time he says, like when that scene when he rips off the Kryptonian armor and stuff like that, he's like, I was born and bred and stuff like that. And Krypton to be Krypton's, to be a soldier of Krypton. Where did you train? On a farm? I'm like, oh my god, Michael Shannon is like, he is such a great villain.
No. But you gotta if you're gonna talk Michael Shannon and his Zod, I stand by. We could have built a new Krypton upon the squalor.
Oh yeah. Yes.
To protect Krypton.
Yeah.
To protect my people. I mean, and just that slow build, because you got to do it right. If you're going to quote that scene, you got to do it right. Because that slow build it's where you can see him getting madder, and then he's like,
okay, so I want to touch what Neo said. He said, by the time the third movie gets here, Lexus already has the knowledge to make his mech suit and kryptonite laser weapons.
Yep.
Agreed. 100%. And then he also said, if Bizarro Zod would have been an interesting idea, you could have had Bizarro Zod sort of like Savage Hulk style threat, strong enough to match Superman, but not his other Kryptonian powers. Well, yeah. I think you would have had, if you would have had it where it was the opposite, like once again, like how he is in real life, like he has, instead of his laser beam fires cold beams, and his breath fires like flames. What I mean? Because
it's like there's so many things they could have done, man.
Yeah. So and that's the thing is, like, I really think that like they really like this is why I've always come back to, like, if you look at where Warner Brothers is doing right, it's in their animation department.
And they just decided to take a big old donkey doo-doo over that with the reboot, whatever that they just did. And I think it's because they're trying to get people to... Didn't they actually just shut down the animation department? Like DC, even because of the fact that it's quote-unquote not profitable? I think it's just because it was making... James Gunn and the movies look bad, personally.
Yeah, so like I know that they have the second ROYB movie coming out here soon. So, but yeah, like I think like the last two movies that were done, like Superman and Man of Tomorrow, and then the one they did, Supergirl and the superhero the Legion of Superheroes. So, like, both of those were really good. Super Sons was a good film.
It.
The animation was just janky.
It was janky, and I my only complaint about Super Sons, they needed they had to put the scene in there where Damian, like they didn't, but they should have, where Damian follows Clark or Jonathan around all day, and then says to him like when they start talking after Jonathan gets out of school, he's like, Jonathan makes a comment, you pretended to be my teacher, like you basically said something along the lines of, you fed us a bunch of bullshit, and then Damien goes, I could have had a PhD in geology if my mom hadn't killed my professor and dumped his body, buried his body at sea. And Jonathan laughs, and then Damien gives him this mouth, I'm not joking look. I think that needed to be in the movie. I think that would have been such a great character point for Damien to really solidify what he's been through. And how smart he is.
The other thing I would definitely, this is just me, that I really, who I thought did a really good job, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White.
I'm still like, I want to be mad at it because, modern day of the constant, you know what I mean?
You know what? I think that kind of came before the whole thing. I just think, to me, like, I
hated it. Like, literally, I like Lawrence Fishburne. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great actor. But I stopped really giving people a pass on the race swaps when around 2012, like right before that movie came out. I was really getting tired of it then because I saw the writing on the wall. And I was making the same complaint then that, why do we got to make change these characters? And of course, whenever I made the complaints then about it, people were like, well, they did it back in the day. Where were you? And they did X, Y, and Z. And I had to make the comment. I didn't like it when they race swapped Chapel and, I can't remember the boss's, Wyatt, I think, and Spawn. There's several movies where you can call it out. So I'm not going to sit there and be cool with it when you make, and especially after we had the greatest casting of Perry White ever in Lois and Clark: The Adventures of Superman.
So we have, what's interesting here is I was looking on Wikipedia. Cavill actually cites his inspiration for his portrayal of Superman was by 4 comics: The Death of Superman, The Return of Superman, Superman Red Sun, Superman/Batman, The Search for Kryptonite. So that's how you know he's a fan when you're citing those, and now those first 3, of course, are the more popular ones now. Superman versus Batman versus The Search for Kryptonite. That was see, and that's where I go with Neo on. I was more annoyed by the superficial race swap studios make and then attacking the fans for not liking it. They did not do that with Lawrence Fishburne. I felt that's why I liked it. And I always liked Lawrence Fishburne. I think he's a good actor. I think
like I said, I didn't see it like anything in the build-up of it because I wasn't following it, and by the time I saw it, I was like, ugh. I just kind of rolled my eyes and groaned and didn't like it because of the fact that I'm tired. I was already tired of the race swaps by that point.
But once again, I wasn't. To me, I don't think it was happening that much back then. It was. But let's move on.
To be fair, you also didn't hang out with the same crowd I did, so I don't blame you. You weren't around people who were constantly talking politics then, so I envy you.
I had my politics, but I just never got into heated discussions about that kind of stuff. One of the things, what was really interesting too, once again, I felt Russell Crowe was a great cast as Jor-El. The other thing I really liked about the movie that I liked that they did Krypton completely different. It wasn't the ice planet that was normally how it is in most of the shows. When they did the TV show and of course the original movies and a lot of the animations, they always made they always made Krypton being this ice planet and stuff like that. I actually liked that. Besides the Adventures of Superman, and also on because not remember in Adventures of Superman, not all of Krypton was ice. You know?
Superman the animated series, like, nope, wasn't ice.
Well, they did have ice. It just wasn't it wasn't everywhere like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was close. It was closer to what it was really as a planet would be. But I think Krypton in the Man of Steel did even better because I just really liked that it had this very diverse. I mean, you were seeing creatures all over the place, and I just so I liked that they did that.
It felt like an actual planet.
Yeah, it felt like an actual planet. So I felt that was really, I thought that was really good. Now, in terms of like there were a couple of scenes like I like the one scene like I didn't care for where Clark does the whole thing with the truck and
that's not Superman.
That's not Clark at all. He would not do something that dicky. That was a douchebag moment.
Yeah. He would have embarrassed the dude in other ways.
Yeah.
Like he would have let the dude pick the fight, and then when the dude couldn't do anything to him, he would have just been like, are you going to hit me? I mean, he would have embarrassed him by making him look weak.
Yeah.
While he's trying to make himself look.
And if I actually think the guy who played that role, I think that was Snyder.
Go back and check it.
Let's see if they actually, because I know they didn't give a name for the guy or anything, but see if they have it here or anything like that.
So now I have the Solarian, and of course I got my main man Garrus. Like I had to get Garrus on Mass Effect 2.
Oh.
All right.
So like now, I do want to kind of talk about some of the issues that like one of the other things I love was I definitely as much as I am a fan of the original theme song of the original Superman, I definitely liked Hans Zimmer's version. I felt it was a different take of it, and it was kind of more. It was more for a guy, like, you know what I mean? It was showing this, especially with a lot of the crescendos and a lot of the, crashes and stuff like that, these big buildups and stuff like that. It definitely felt very superhero-esque throughout the whole thing.
Right.
And that was definitely a good, I thought that was a good choice. Whereas, like, one of the things I felt like there was definitely some plot holes in the film that I really wish they would have worked on a little bit better. Especially like the ending sequence, like, with them going into the wormhole and stuff like that. I kind of wish they would have kind of wrapped that up in some way, or maybe, you know what I mean? It was kind of just the way, and I think a lot of that could have been wrapped up once again in a sequel if we would have gotten a proper sequel for it. I think it would have done better. You know what I mean? In that terms of the story wise.
Oh yeah. They also should have had a Batfleck solo Batman movie before they had Batman v Superman.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're just getting into stuff. Once again, that's that is. We'll kind of come to that at the end. I just want to kind of focus on introspective. So, like, I think overall, like if I were to take this, if we were going to take, say, the George Reeves Superman, Christopher Reeves Superman. We have the Brandon Routh Superman, and of course, currently right now we do have the just the Man of Steel version. I definitely think I think in time, I think the Man of Steel is going to hold itself as I think even to this year, 10 years later, the film is still a very good film overall. Yes, it does have some of its negatives and stuff like that, but overall, like, and we've talked about this before, one of the things we didn't care for Henry's scene was the whole scene where Jonathan gets killed by the tornado.
Yep.
Clark, Clark should have been. I think Clark should have been played by a different person at that age.
Yeah, I agree there too. Don't get me wrong. I like how they somehow made him look skinny. I give them that was well played. But beyond that, I'm just saying, they should have gone the other way and had the kid that they had playing young him aged him up a little bit somehow. I think that would have been a smarter move.
Well, he was only the kid that had him was only 13 years old, so
they could have gone that route. It just had him go that route at 13.
No, I would have just casted another person at 18. I mean, although you could argue now he's supposed to be 33 in the movie, so you do have, that's one of the big issues you do have. So probably right at the end of when that scene happens, he's probably 18, 19, maybe 20 years old. Yeah, so he's not going to look, overall, he may not have looked too different between that is one thing, but I just felt he was too young in that, he did not look overall, that was one of my only negative scenes I felt in the movie was that hurt the film completely, was just that scene.
What's funny is the person I spent that really put in my face all the race swaps years ago and made it to where I was calling him out was actually him, and I got into a big argument about that scene and how I was saying it's so stupid that Superman did it. He goes, Superman needed the character growth that there's just some things that he can't fight against. He can't win against everything. He had to have this failure. But you just don't understand narrative. It's in narration. He needed the character growth because if he didn't understand that, dude, the whole point of Superman is he's that guy that doesn't have limits. That is literally his point.
Well, the whole point of that, but the thing is that scene, and remember he's telling that scene that happens. That scene takes place when he's talking with Lois, and of course, right after that, Lois goes and says that she's dropping the whole thing and stuff like that. So that scene was to tell, Lois that there was a reason why he does not want his secret to get out, because his dad sacrificed his life because he didn't want his secret to get out, because at that time he didn't know how people would have viewed him. Yeah, so I get it. Yes, it's for character growth, but at the same time, I just felt that it was not. I would not have killed Jonathan by a tornado. I would have.
Here's my point. Here's why I say that would have already happened for him. All right. He grew up on a farm. He saw animals die. He's already had that understanding that there's just some things he can't control. He can't stop everything. So it's a needless reinforcement of something he already learned growing up on a farm. He didn't need that growth. All right. And try to make it, that's the reason why he no, it's dumb and it's narration.
Yeah, it is. I where I like that they did Jonathan's death is I come back to the original Superman. That scene where Jonathan and young Clark are talking, and they're because Clark shows off to the girls and stuff like that, and he does that super speed run home and stuff like that. And then when he's running back to the thing where the dog's chasing him, you see Jonathan start chasing him, and then all of a sudden he just stops, and he's checking his hand, and next thing you know, he just boom right over. To me, that is a death that is you cannot control whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know,
he just had a heart attack. He was old,
yeah,
he was old, and it was his time.
yeah. So like, I think that's why I come back to like I still think that while I get why they killed Jonathan off, I just felt that the fact that they already killed Jor-El off, and now they killed Jonathan off. It's like, okay, well, you're not giving this guy a good role model at this point. Yes, Jonathan was there for most of his life, but then he lives the next 20-some years, 23 years without his dad. And I'm thinking, well, wait a second. That would still, this is coming from somebody who lost a parent at 11 years old. That is still, even at 18, 19, 20 years old, that is still going to mess a person up at that age. Yeah. Because they're still, you're still growing and stuff like that. So, like, I just feel like that was a scene that just was not handled correctly. Like, if you were going to kill Jonathan, I would have done it by some other way. Maybe it was like, let's say that scene is maybe they're on their way back and he's talking about his dad. He's like, you're not my dad. And boom, maybe there was an accident or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a car crash or something. That would have been a lot easier because that's something you can't control.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is, though, they didn't have to kill Jonathan to make that point.
Right.
Because it's already been made. And we could have had, like, Lois and Clark in the Adventures of Superman, where Superman's able to go back and talk to his parents, and they give him advice on life, where there are times where Jonathan Kent pulls him aside and says, Clark, I understand you're going through some things, but there's a point in a man's life, and he has man conversations with him, not going to his mom and having, oh, it's okay, you're doing all right. No, and that's the big problem we have with these movies. Where are the male role models? Even Superman needs a male role model.
And I think that's one big reason why I love Smallville. Like, we had the first 5 seasons where Jonathan was in, it wasn't until like the ending, I think it was either the ending or the ending of season 5 where he died. But for most of his growth as him being the Blur and moving towards being the superhero of Superman, he had that impact of Jonathan in him learning his powers and learning how he has to be as a person, dealing with all the issues with Lex and stuff like that. So, like, for me, like, that was very well done as a death. The way they killed Jonathan off in the 5th season.
I still don't necessarily like it, but at least they, like, because I always prefer to keep them around as late in life as they can. Like, all right, Superman starts having family. Like, okay, I think the reason why Superman and Lois works, like, with both the parents being dead, because they already have kids of their own, and they start with his mother dying. Like, I don't like the fact that his dad died when he was a young teenager, but they try to. It makes sense that his parents would already be dead, and, like, I feel like they could have just had it be that when the boys were young, Jonathan Kent died, and this point, that's when Martha Kent died, and of old age.
Right.
And
because I have always, and this is just me, as much as I liked, and that's why I like Diane Lane. I thought she was, like, at a really good age. The look of her, she looked older than him. You know what I mean? You could tell that she was definitely in her late 60s, maybe early 70s. So I always liked, and that was one of the things, and I've always liked the Kents were always drastically older. Now, I know why they did that in Smallville. Like, they made them younger because they were trying to make a TV series where you can't have the parents die. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas, like, I've always liked that, for me, like, I've always liked that Superman's parents were,
a big part of his life as a superhero.
Yeah, but they were older people, but they were an older couple.
Well,
because
come on, if we're going to talk about this, I mean, think about it. We could have gotten, this is what they robbed from us, okay? You remember Justice League when Superman took Martian Manhunter home for Christmas? We got robbed of a big screen live action version of that scene, and if they had somebody who, like, could really explain to WB why scenes like that are important. It's because you will have all the fans go, like, as soon as we see this scene starting to take shape, where the Kents are trying to be, I guess you could say, overbearing and parental to John Jones would be the most wholesome and great thing to see on live action. And
yeah.
Diane Lane and freaking Kevin Costner would have nailed it.
Yeah.
But no, they had to kill Kevin Costner in the first movie. Damn!
Yeah, exactly. So, like, yeah.
Kevin Costner, too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, when they cast, I mean, Kevin Costner's like, he, like, if I want someone as my dad, I would want Kevin Costner as my dad. You know what I mean? Because he just seems like that dad, cool dad.
You know, funny? Kevin Costner actually owns property here in Lawton. Because when he finally does completely retire, he's like, I'm moving to this little hellhole. Fuck this place. It's small. I like it. People are all right. Screw you.
Well, apparently, did you hear about, like, the whole debacle going on with Yellowstone? Like, apparently, like, yeah, they haven't told him, like, if he's coming back or not, or if they're killing him off at the end of this season 5. So, like, he's having some major issues and stuff like that. Like, if I were Costner, I would just retire because you got FU money at this point.
Yeah, he does. And come on, dude. Especially especially the whole. Okay, so how everyone found out, this will be funny. He got called in for jury duty. You know, that's like someone found out he lives in, like, has residence here in Lawton and whatnot, and went. And he's apparently registered to vote in Oklahoma.
Oh.
Because you don't get called in for jury duty unless you have a local driver's license and local voting.
Dude, so I want to address Neo. He said he wouldn't mind having Billy D. Williams or Ernie Hudson. Dude, you would love Ernie. I've met Ernie Hudson. He is great. Like, what, you know, it's funny, like, because his wife is not known. Like, she is like, we got to meet him at Steel City Con, and he was there, and I got his signature and stuff like that because he was on he played on some shows that I really liked, so I got his signature. And Eric and I were sitting there, we were talking with him for like 3 hours, and he was telling us, like, all the stuff he got to do, and, like, he said one of the big things is, like, he was talking about why, like, he was talking about, like, his marriage and stuff like that, and, like, how he was able to stay married for so long, and, like, his wife is not known in Hollywood at all. Like, she's not. He doesn't live in Hollywood. He said he doesn't live in California. He does have a place in California, but he doesn't live there permanently, and he was saying the big thing is why most of the people in Hollywood end up becoming the way they are is because they're living in that area. He said the people that seem to do very well tend to not live in Hollywood because they separate their lives from Hollywood, and and they live more realistically if they go to, for instance, like how. And I think Ernie actually is either from New York or Pennsylvania or New Jersey or something like that. So, like, I believe he comes back here. Like, yeah. So, like, to me, like, it would make sense. Like, if I lived in Hollywood, I'd be like, if I was in Hollywood, I'd be like, nah, Hollywood, you can do your thing over here. I'm gonna go do my thing here. I'll make movies. I'll send it to you. You know, I'll go where you need me to go to film, but I'm not gonna live in Hollywood.
Yeah. And that's the point. Like, but that's, like, either way. Like, the fact that I figured that since we're talking about Man of Steel, that's a funny little aside about Kevin Costner. Like, if I ever run into him here in town, like, he usually does end up coming back and living here. If I ever run into him, I'm gonna laugh my ass off. I'm gonna be like, dude, I hate the fact that they killed you. Man of Steel. Tin Cup was a great movie, though. Love Tin Cup. That was a fantastic movie, actually. You know, Postman gets a lot of hate. That was a good movie of his, too.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Postman was good. You know, there's a lot of movies. Like, I really, like, I know a lot of people hate Waterworld.
Yeah, that's a good movie, too.
I love Waterworld. Like, I
Waterworld is a bit too big-brained for people, though.
It is. It is. But like it for me, it was a fun film. Like
well, yeah, because like the whole idea is after nuclear war, you can't find any water, or you can't find any land. But here's the thing: like what I like the way they pretty much set it up, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. The reason why the girl had the map on her back was because there were people who actually were living on land, and when that was their way to find back to their where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents died. They established that, and it was just her with this map.
Yep.
On how to get back. And it's
yes. So like Bull Durham. There's I love Bull Durham. Like there is a lot of movies that I really enjoy. What's it called? Field of Dreams. I know a lot of people. There's people that are kind of happy on that. So, like I love Kevin Costner. Like he is like one of my favorite actors. And I know like a lot of people because he used to do a lot of artsy fartsy films in his. And he never in the 90s. He always did films that were like 3 hours or longer.
Oh, I remember fucking Dances with Wolves. Go into the movie theater, 13 years old, come out able to vote and drink.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's actually somebody I would love. I would love to meet Kevin Costner. Like that would be awesome.
That's funny. Now, I'll have to say, who else is in that movie though? Like that was good. Like I think we pretty much touched on everyone that was in the movie. Like even my hate for them casting Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White. Like Fishburne's a great actor. I would never say he isn't. So I don't know really anything else that Amy Adams was in, but I'm not a movie guy. And the only reason why I really know Lawrence Fishburne is because The Matrix. And he did this one movie in the 90s that I thought was really good, where he played a ex-con who pretty much took this young boy under his arm, and straightened him out while at the same time repairing a table.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Movie was great. He, at one point, crackhead was causing problems for some people he knew. Crackhead went and broke into the house to find him standing in a chair with a knife. He chased the crackhead out of the place and around and into an alley. Crackhead hides in the dumpster. He knew the crackhead was in there, but he was like, you know what? The crackhead blood ain't worth my doesn't need to be on my soul. He'd already killed one person and regretted it. He wasn't trying to do it again. Oh man, I'm trying to honestly, Michael Shannon. I think it's the only thing I've ever seen him in.
I've actually seen him in other movies. He was in there's a movie recently. There was a movie he did where he lived in. Give me a second here. But he actually played in a role where the person lived in the Midwest, and he was in Bullet Train, of course, Shape of Water, The Night Before, The Iceman. I don't remember that one. Bad Lieutenant. He was in Groundhog Day.
Really?
Yep. He was in Bad Boys 2, which I believe he played the villain in there.
Okay, so maybe I have seen him and stuff. I just didn't recognize him.
8 Mile.
Really?
Yep. He was in 8 Mile. Let's see here. Vanilla Sky.
Never saw that one.
Okay. Revolutionary World. Bad Lieutenant, Missing Son, The Runaways. He was in Jonah Hex.
Saw that one.
And that was in 2010. He was in Machine Gun Preacher.
Didn't see that one.
I'm just going off the stuff that I know. He was The Harvest. That's the horror movie. He was in that one. That came out the same time that That came out at the same time that Man of Steel did. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of what other stuff. Young Ones. That's not it. They came together that way. Freehold the night before. That's completely unknown. Frank and Lola. Midnight Special. He was in Nocturnal Animals. Of course, like I said, The Shape of Water. Knives Out. He was in.
Didn't see that one. What's funny is I know it was advertised when I worked at the theater. Like we were advertising it, but I don't think we ever got it.
Yeah, there's this movie he was in. Basically, it takes place in like the Midwest, and like there is like he's dealing with like ongoing weather issues like tornadoes and all that stuff, and trying to live and I think it takes place in Oklahoma or something like that.
Dude, I lived. All right, so here's the funny thing. All right, seeing all these other places get tornadoes, and we really haven't had any. We've had some scares where we had tornado sirens, but we really haven't had any in a cool minute. And I live in Tornado Alley. Like, I've known people that lost their house in a tornado. Luckily, it's a family. Luckily, they were fairly well-to-do. Like, they owned a motel.
Mm-hmm.
And so on and so forth. It actually did well until Lawton got a really bad crackhead problem, meth problem.
So he was also in Pearl Harbor.
Really? You know, that's one I've never actually seen. Like, I've heard it's like a great movie, but I've never bothered to see it. I'm not a big war movie guy.
Let's see here. I'm just trying to think of. Yeah, I mean, like, I think with him, like, Michael Shannon, like, I don't, because depending on depending on what movie, he does not look the same, and you know, because like he did not look the same, like how he does. I've seen him in other movies. You could tell that it's him, but he does not look like. I think in Man of Steel, like he definitely looked a lot different.
I still think he but I wish he'd put a little bit more muscle on to be closer to Cavill. This way, when he's in the black suit, it looks freaking intimidating. Like, I wanted him to look intimidating. I think he should have been bigger than Cavill. Like, they should have had him get so fucking huge so that fight when he takes off his armor, you find out the armor's not really hiding much. He is that big. You know what I mean?
Nah, I think I was fine with the way I was fine with the way he looked. So anyhow, okay, we're at 10:30 here. So we're gonna wrap up here. So overall, do you think, you know, we both agree definitely that it's a good you know, in terms of, and I think what's going for it, the Man of Steel, was the story unique? No, because it's an origin story. Okay.
I would say yes and no. I'd say yes and no.
Was there, like, in terms of, was it groundbreaking in terms of the script and all you know what I mean, as a movie? No. What I think for me that made it cohesive was they had everything kind of come together. They had a fairly decent script, but the music, the acting, and the direction, everything to me, you know, I would give it a good solid 8.5 as a Superman film, as a superhero film. Does it deserve, like, for me, Dark Knight or The Dark Knight? No, No. I mean, to me, the Dark Knight film, the second one, is almost perfect as a superhero film. You can't get any. That's just me. You can't get any better than the second Batman movie in
And
the
you know
trilogy.
how I personally say that movie should have ended? I say the final scene should have been, and this is where Warner Brothers should have looked at Nolan and said, "Look, you want to complete your trilogy? You are establishing Batman in a greater universe, and the second movie should have been ending with Superman actually showing up in Gotham to find out what's going on because of what just happened with Batman."
I disagree with that. I think what ruined the Batman trilogy was the fact that unfortunately Heath Ledger dying. I think Nolan had a different direction that he wanted to go in after the second film. The problem is Heath Ledger dying after the second film threw that into the whole wrench. So he had, So I don't mind him. Maybe at the end of the third film, like instead of like I just don't I don't like how they did the handoff to the guy who's supposed to be Dick Grayson. You know what I mean? I just felt that was a cop out and stuff like that. You know,
the whole thing was retarded.
Yeah, the third. Yeah, we'll have to do we'll have to do a Dark Knight. We'll have to do a Batman trilogy introspective at some point because
you will hear me like talk about how much I hate Christopher Nolan. I'm just
because I mean Christopher Nolan I think he's overrated as a director. Is he a good director? Yes. Is he a good storyteller? Yes. Is he overrated? 100%. 100%. 100%. But so coming back to because I mean I do like Interstellar. I loved Interstellar. I love Inception. Now I didn't care for the last. I thought the last movie that he did with Jonathan
Oppenheimer.
Not Oppenheimer. The one before that. The one where they deal with time travel and him, going backwards and doing the different stuff.
I don't know.
With Denzel Washington's son.
I didn't know Denzel Washington's son was in acting.
Yeah, that is who he is. Jonathan David Washington. Yeah, because he was in Ballers. He played a quarterback in Ballers.
Huh. Well, no, my whole point about like the funny thing you mentioned Interstellar and whatnot. So I started explaining many years ago, right? I've yet to ever see Interstellar. Okay. I was talking about time travel and faster than light travel and things like that, and I had someone look at me and go, "Have you seen Interstellar?" Because that's basically what Christopher Nolan described it as. Like, no, I'm going off of the actual science, and they looked at me like so confused. Now I get why you mentioned earlier. Nolan likes to put proper science into his movies.
Yes, yeah. So that's the thing is even his movie with let's see here. So there was Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet. So Tenet actually deals with time travel, and also, but it's done differently in time travel. It's doing different style of time travel. So yeah, I highly do. You definitely got to watch Tenet, and I know you're not a big Nolan fan, but I highly recommend Interstellar. Matthew McConaughey does a really good job at Interstellar. Dunkirk was good.
Matthew McConaughey, while he is a raging leftist, the man can act.
Yeah. I'm the type of person I can separate the acting from their politics.
I'm the type of person that used to and said, as long as we keep doing that, they're going to continue to have bad behavior. So in order to correct their behavior, we must stop supporting them entirely.
Which is why you pirate.
Our matey.
Yeah. You live on the high.
I still say the greatest own when it comes to the Flash movie, right? You'd think it would be all over the internet. It's such a bad movie. No one's bothered to pirate it.
Oh, it's already pirated. I know a couple torrent sites that have it. They have cam versions.
Yeah, but the whole point is like nobody cares. Like
No.
you could have a cam version of a movie that if it's a movie that people actually want to see, the various pirate sites will have it, even if they, people normally don't like the, camera movies, right? I know I don't. But what makes it funny is nobody cares. Nobody's watching it. Everyone's just going, I'm good on that plan. And you know I'm right.
Shh. Anyhow, so like yeah. So now stepping back from there, all those other issues, like I do believe that now if you look at the score on the rating, like all the different like Metacritic and all that stuff, it's actually rating about a 7.1 average. So like I still think a 7.1 is really good. Now like for me, like I would rate it, like I said, I've rated it as an 8 because it's just for me, like it hits on a lot of different cylinders. Which is why, like, I'd be hard pressed to give it an 8.5 because of some of the issues I do have with the script and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
also, yeah. I mean, but at the same time, you got to, like, let's be honest, Schneider's known for giving us scene porn, I think is what it's called, or scenic porn, where he will have these amazingly beautiful scenic shots. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And it's like, you know what? And I think that also lends Man of Steel a lot of, I guess you could say, culture. We'll call it that. Because it's not just a superhero movie. You get these shots that are pure art.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, like my favorite, like, so, like, before we start wrapping up more, so, like, one of the scenes, besides, the scene, that rescue scene, the other scene for me that really sold the movie for me is that first flight scene where, he's walking out from the ship with the suit on for the first time. He's looking out across the stretch of land, and you see this mountainous, cold and mountainous area and stuff like that. And then he's walking and walking and walking, and then he's looking up at the sun, and then he's looking at the sky. You see the sun reflecting off his face, and he's just kind of sitting there absorbing. He's moving his hands, he's absorbing it, and then he tries to fly. Starts off with and I like that it starts off with how he originally started off with. He can leap longer than a tall building, and he's leaping. He's not flying. He's actually leaping for the first time. And then when he does that last leap, he tries to go up as high as he can. He fails. He falls back down. What does he do? When he falls, and he then puts his hand on the gravel and the snow, and he gets himself back up, and he picks himself back up, and he's like, okay, you can see it in his face. I failed this time. I'm going to do this again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down. I'm going to muster all my strength and all my abilities that I can, and boom, you know what I mean? And he does that first flying scene, that first when he takes off for real, and you see that, and he's flying through the air, and he's having fun. You're like, damn. What would I give not to be like Superman at that moment? You know what I mean?
Dude.
You're fine.
I still say, like, if you, like, I'm not gonna lie, if you right now, okay, gave me Kryptonian powers, the like first thing I'm doing come daylight is I'm doing the fly straight up into the sky, absorb all that fucking energy from the sun and go right into space and just kind of float there for a bit.
Well, that's and that's the thing is like when he does that scene, when he's up in the sky and he actually kind of goes up and he just gets up into the upper atmosphere and stuff. Like he doesn't go out in space only when he gets put on the ship and stuff like that. But still, when he gets up in that upper air and he's just sitting there with the flying and he puts his arms back and he's just almost like he's floating. That to me, like that was like to me that was a scene that I'm like, damn, not because it reminded me back to like what they were doing with the original Superman when he learned, showing that he could fly. Now that you can see this with all the CG being so much better and stuff like that, that he's having fun playing Superman, that he is embodying that character, and that for me is like probably, and that's just not the only scene that I think like. The other scene I really love is when he, he's getting his butt pwned to him by the world engine, and then he gets down into the center of the world engine and he's getting all this gravity pushed down on him. And he's like just pushing himself and he's like feeling like the gravity and it's pushing down on him. And then he just kind of gets back down and he just uses all his powers and boom, you know what I mean? And it's like, damn, like, that's my boy. That is Superman right there. He's just, and of course, you and I both agree the fight with him and Zod is just, like the point, like, and you can tell he's badass. Like the building's falling down around him, he's floating. Superman's floating, and then he super speeds and like he flies fast out the building as it's collapsing. You're like, damn. Damn, get like, and I love that they do, and this is the thing that I love. Like, if there were two, like, realistically, if you had two superheroes fighting that were like Kryptonians are fighting, shit would be getting destroyed left and right. Nobody would be safe at all, and that's what I loved about the grittiness of it. It was because. It goes to show you, like, it would be everybody would be an afterthought, and really, you could get a lot of people pissed off at Superman that way. And they've shown this in the comics where there's a lot of people who don't like him because he's so brutal, and he does do a lot of destroying a property and stuff like that.
He doesn't mean to. It's just the fact that he is.
Well, his villains are basically doing it to him. They're getting him to destroy them because they're the ones that are making everybody basically like Superman had his his option. He would fight outside of Metropolis.
Yeah, there's been several times where he's tried to pull the fight out of the city, only to have the fight pulled back in because
Doomsday. Yeah. The original. I'm not talking about the BVS version. If you read the original Death of Superman, the scene where because all the Justice League is trying to stop Doomsday from heading towards Metropolis, and then Clark tries to get him outside, but he just kept beating his way to the center of Metropolis because Doomsday's mission was to destroy Metropolis because he knew it could hurt Superman.
And they were mean to some superheroes during that time. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's the the whole '90s thing.
Jordan losing Coast City drove him insane, literally.
Yeah, well, led him to go to Parallax.
It's why I keep trying to when I say the Green Lantern movie could have been the start for the DCEU.
Yep.
If they had just gone with Manhunters first, Sinestro second, Parallax third, they could have had an actual event where Mongol went and blew up Coast City like he did in the comics. So at the end of the third movie, while yes, Hal Jordan wins the day, he still falls and succumbs to becoming the new Parallax.
Mm-hmm.
You get that ending scene of him killing all the Green Lanterns, the last shot of him being holding all the rings with the crazed look on his eyes, and then the end credit scene is Kyle Reiner finding a new ring. The version 2 ring that's not susceptible to yellow.
Yeah.
And
And that's the thing is like I just think that it's a shame. So coming back to Superman, the Man of Steel, because we're gonna wrap this up here. I know I said that earlier, but we kind of got into a little tangent there. But in retrospective, and we kind of talked about this in the beginning of the stream. Was the Man of Steel a good Superman mythos movie?
oh
Yes,
yeah.
100%. My opinion, Bob.
Oh, of course, dude. Like, all I gotta say is, when you got somebody who tries his best to do right by the fans, which has always been Cavill's number one thing, you're gonna get a good Superman. He's gonna take he may not be able to polish a turd of a bad script, but he will still make it look pretty good.
Yeah, the thing is, even with if you look at, he's all about having fun. Like he came back, he loved doing the role so much, he came back to do a cameo, and he was going to do a cameo at the end of Shazam, but he couldn't do it because of filming issues. But he wanted to do the cameo there because he loves comics. He loves playing the role, and I think that is what I think what people are going to look at, and they're going to realize why I think not only is this a good Superman mythos, it's a good Superman film, because overall, like you have a decent script. You have great actors who love playing the roles. You could tell everybody was having fun in that film. I don't know if Michael Shannon was, but he still played a good Zod.
Actually, from what I gathered in a recent interview, he actually did enjoy playing Zod. That's why he came back.
Oh, okay. I know Russell Crowe loved playing because I remember when they were talking about Man of Steel, and Russell Crowe was talking about the scenes he had to film as Jor-El, and he said he like this was like a big thing because he gets to play something that, because I think he had young sons at the time when this movie came out, and he had when I say young sons, like 12, 13, 14 years old and stuff like that. So like he felt like, okay, here's the chance for me to play this iconic character in an iconic in a superhero role that is very pivotal. You know what I mean? So I think overall, I just think hands down 100%. I think people are going to be talking fondly about this film in another 10, 15 years. I think it's good. It's good ahead of the curve. Yeah, it's going to hold up just like the original, just like Superman 1 and 2 do. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people don't particularly care for Superman 3. I love Superman 3. That's just because I love Richard Pryor.
And you're going to say that.
And you gotta give them balls that they try something different with Brainiac and stuff like that, because
I honestly, my only real thing that I have with like the way they did Brainiac is I feel like they could have done something a bit more with that, if like to where Brainiac came back in the fourth movie as actually more humanoid, and they could have even gotten away with it being the chick that got stuck in Brainiac.
Yeah, we just don't want to talk about the disaster of Superman 4. Lex
Luthor's nephew, who now has Superman powers because of radiation that would have killed him.
yeah, and then him creating that Superman clone off the hair. Yeah, but anyhow, but I think this is just me. I think you're going to see Man of Steel be a cult classic, just the way like Batman Returns is, and if you look at like film wise, I think it's going to. People are going to be more fond of this film even more as more time goes by. Because I think overall they're going to realize, you're going to have those crowd of haters that never cared for it and stuff like that. But I just think this is just me. My feeling is I think they're going to hate it no matter what. But for me as a Superman fan, I enjoyed it. I am looking forward to the next one. I'm leery, like I was back when when Man of Steel came out for the first time. I'll be leery. If it does good, I'll be happy. If it's a good film, like the way I'll talk it up. But anyhow, yeah. So like, I think it's hard to believe it's been 10 years. And I look back at this segues into kind of like where we're going to wrap things up with, the things that we didn't get coming off of this movie, because it was financially wise. Warner Brothers actually did really do well with this film. It made over, it made over $1 billion. So it made its money back. So I think I think if we're looking at the DCU as a whole, total movie wise, there are really only 4 movies that I think were decent, that were good.
The first 4: Superman, Man of Steel,
BVS, Wonder Woman, and Shazam.
Shazam's good. I was going to say Suicide Squad, and then I was going to tack on Shazam because
I hated Suicide Squad.
The Ultimate Cut was pretty good.
The
theatrical cut sucked, but the Ultimate Cut was all right. A cut.
Yeah, dude. I'm sorry. Will Smith is not Deadshot.
I can see your complaint. I will.
So
Will Smith played Will Smith.
Now, I will say I did enjoy James Gunn's version of Suicide Squad a little bit more. I know you did, but anyhow. So if I look at, I think it was an okay film, but if I have to think out of all the DCU films, only those 4 for me are the best films. Everything else, like, I think Justice League is kind of in the issue that it is because the Ultimate version, the Zack Snyder version, had to fix a lot of problems that the Joss Whedon version did, but it was already ruined. You know what I mean? It was already ruined because of it.
I like the Snyder Cut. I actually got it. I'm looking at it right now.
I think. Well, I'm not saying that it wasn't a bad film. My thing is, I think that what ruined the movie for me was the ending with the Joker and stuff like that.
Oh, because we will never get the Nightmare timeline?
No, I don't want the Nightmare timeline.
I do. I want to find out what happened to lead to that and how they were planning on fixing it.
No, because I hated the Joker. The Joker.
You hated the Jared Leto Joker.
Yes. That was not Joker.
I've always stated he did. You say that. I always stated he did a good Joker. He just had a stupid look. Had they just kept him looking like the Joker, everyone would have thought he was fine. But because they made him look like a fucking idiot, and no one liked it, and I don't blame them for not liking the look. That's not the Joker.
Yeah. Well, let's see where things are going to go now. I'm not optimistic to say, but as a superhero fan, I do have the DCU animated films to tide me over, so I can go back and watch them. I can go back and watch Justice League and all the originals. That's the one nice thing about having things on disc or things on digital files that are not, tied to any service, because then you don't have to worry about it. So
yeah,
but anyhow, so yeah, guys, if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you go watch or give Man of Steel a chance. I think you just don't go in expecting him the greatest film in the world. Just go in and expecting a fun time, and I think you'll be pleased with the film.
A good Superman movie.
Yeah, very, very much so. All right, Bob. So where can people follow you, sir?
As always, you folks can find me on the Twitters at Brainiac420. You can find me everywhere else at Bob Jones Comic Wars, and you can find me right here on the YouTubes at A Nerd and Over 30.
All right. And guys, you can always follow me here on YouTube at Volt Chaos 1975. Over on Twitter, I am at Dead Moon D. And then on Instagram, I'm Dead Mood Detectives. Just to give you guys an update where we're at, I'm still getting the money stuff fixed with Eric and trying to work on that. But yeah. Anyhow, those things are still in the process, and I'm working on trying to resolve certain things. So hopefully I can get stuff done here. But yeah, one day at a time. But anyhow, other than that, we'll try to get another stream here. Bob and I are going to talk about some ideas we're going to toss around here. We're going to try to get a little bit more productive. We want to create new openings for his channel and my channel. That's something we probably should focus on. And then that will be the first step once he gets all finished with his move and stuff, and then we'll move forward on that, and hopefully the channel will get a little bit better, and we'll start planning other stuff. We want to talk. There's a lot of stuff going on. We want to talk. There's video games. Bob and I have a lot of different topics we like to talk about. So.
Oh yeah, and all I gotta say about the move is this is the move that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friend.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I do thank you for those who came out. Neo, have a great evening. Anybody else watching, have a good evening. And if you watch this later on, thanks for supporting us. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Bob. If you're not subscribed to Bob, make sure to follow him over there. Bob does a lot of good stuff over there. And
me being a troll in shorts, because that's like. Oh man, the one I put out earlier was great.
Yeah. I tried to be a little bit more serious. So yeah, guys, thanks again. Always as support. I'm trying to rebuild the channel, and we thank you for your support. So have a good evening and a great weekend, and happy 4th of July.
Later, folks. Happy 4th of July.